Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where executive coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hey, executive leaders, all of my listeners, I have a big announcement, and I need your help in order to make this happen. We are coming up on episode number 100 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. It's actually going to air later this year in September. And I don't want to just celebrate that big milestone by talking to myself. I actually want to celebrate it with you, my listeners. And so here's what I'm looking for. If there's something that you've heard on this podcast, any episode at all, that has helped you, has changed how you lead, how you think, or how you operate as an executive leader in or outside of the workplace. I want to hear about it from you. Maybe it's a decision that you've made differently. Maybe it's a framework or a tool that you used that you brought to your team. Maybe it's a conversation that you finally had. If there is a result that happened because of something you picked up here on the podcast, big wins, small wins, all of it matters. Because what I really want to do with episode 100 is I don't want it to be me just looking back on the 100 episodes that I've had. I want it to be reflective of your experience. Your stories are what will help shape this episode. The things you've applied, the shifts you've made, the moments where something clicked. That's what I want to bring to other listeners, because I know if those tools help to resonate with you, there are really good chances that it is exactly what somebody else needs and what they need to hear right now. So some stories that I have heard just recently in the past few weeks. I recently just had a consult with a client that has been a listener since 2024, so going on 2 years, and she was in a place where she started listening to the podcast to use in her workplace and how she was interacting with people. She recently just reached out for a consult. She got a big promotion and now she's a client. I had a listener just this past couple weeks reach out to me from overseas, from the Middle East, and has been listening to this on his commute into work, which is fantastic. And again, chasing after that next level. Now we're using it to elevate executive presence. And there are tools that I've heard that you've used over the years. Clients interacting with their supervisors and bosses in a different way, the board a different way. I had someone negotiate a raise and tell me about it. So there's all these cool stories that I've heard. And what I'd love to curate is a picture of all of these episodes, tools, lessons, topics that have had the most real world impact, told through the people who actually lived it. Not this highlight reel of my favorite moments, but a reflection of what you, the listeners, found most valuable. So share your story with me. Tell me what you've heard, what you did with it, what changed in your career, your team, the way you lead. A few sentences is all it takes to get started. So to share it, easy. Just go to my website, which is always linked in the show notes, and click the section where it says you can contact me directly. And you can also email me. Really easy. My email is Alicia, ELISIA, at Alicia Cowan Coaching, ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. And the website, same thing. It's aliciacowancoaching.com. So easy way to reach me. Would love to hear from you. Thanks always for listening, friends. Here's to upcoming 100.
Hello there, my executive leader friends. Welcome to episode number 95 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. I'm Alicia Cowan, and if you are a first-time listener, I am an executive coach that loves to focus on executive presence. And I always give a quick personal update about what's happening around the Cowan house. So it is right after the holiday weekend that I'm recording this. So happy belated 4th of July weekend. This will go live in a couple of weeks after the 4th, but hopefully you had a fantastic one. I did. I also celebrated my 7th wedding anniversary on July 5th. It's my husband and I's uh, 7th anniversary. And so we went to a really awesome dinner at this place called Kinjo in Tampa, which is just awesome. So if you ever get a chance, highly recommend. It's a blend of Italian and Japanese cuisine with like unparalleled service. Really small space, really intimate, very cool, and fantastic food, and just a great time. And so 4th of July weekend was really a great low-key weekend spent with family and friends and food and fireworks and all the things. My favorite holiday. And the start of the summer has just been fantastic. I got a chance to go up and visit my sister and my brother-in-law in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. They bought a new home there, and it's my first time seeing it. And so really a great start of the summer. And so I hope you're having one too. Okay, so I want to jump into today's topic. And as it relates to the topic today on executive presence, I also want to share a couple of recent wins from some of my coaching clients. I think these examples will illustrate what's possible when leaders invest in their own growth and they really focus on executive presence. And it's exactly how I like to coach, because I believe that executive presence is truly, it's not this collection of communication tricks or tips or best practices. So it's not just the tactical, nor is it purely just inner work and mindset work. I truly believe when you are elevating your executive presence, it's the perfect intersection of your identity and your outward behaviors. And I'm going to share these anonymously, but I want to also give a shout out to the clients and listeners that are sharing their wins, because I think it really shows if you put this work into practice, you can really start to see movement and how it's ultimately helping you reach your long-term goals. And that's exactly what's happening. So I have a C-suite client that recently made the decision to intentionally protect time on her calendar. Specifically, she's going after some massive goals of business development for herself and her company. And to be able to focus on this, she realized she had to get a hold of her time and her calendar and how other people were using her time on her calendar. So instead of constantly reacting to the demands of the business or other people on her time, she started to create space to think like a C-suite leader. And so within weeks, she had started to go after client acquisition and was able to complete a couple of major initiatives that had just been sitting on her to-do list for months. And what was awesome about this, it was this combination of mindset, of believing she could do it, having the confidence to do it, overcoming some of her limiting beliefs that she had, and also just going out and trying some tactics that worked. And again, it was trial and error to figure out what was going to work and not work, but beautiful intersection of belief and action. Secondly, I want to share a win from a COO client, another C-suite client, that shared something that really stuck with me recently. She shared that she's starting to learn to recognize in a new phase of and season of life where it's time to lean in instead of holding back. It's the perfect season for this, and nothing was going wrong with her holding back. It was a very conscious decision, but now she's decided the season is it's time, and she's starting to trust her judgment more. She's starting to make decisions with greater confidence, and she's starting to lead from this place of conviction instead of holding back and second guessing herself. And I would say she's not necessarily second guessing, but she's using the right restraint. How about that? And this mindset of, and this transition of trusting herself and then starting to lean in is fantastic. But she's also using, again, the tool of actions, taking actions. So once she has made up her mind and once she has decided to move forward, she's combining that with that trust in herself and decisions. So kudos to her. And then lastly, I just got a message from a listener after my last episode, number 94. We talked all about becoming your own executive asset and how to protect you as the asset, as an executive. And it was so powerful. They told me, I finally made time for me this morning. And this was powerful for them, especially during what they called it as their busiest time of year. And they had the realization that they needed to make time to actually think. And that realization that you need time to think was just a really cool unlock for them. So this is huge. I want to say, hearing these new ideas and then taking them from the podcast and actually putting them to action is really powerful. And so the combo of believing that your time is important enough to protect and then actually putting that into action is magic. That's the magic that we're talking about. And I love hearing stories like this because this is exactly why I love to do this work. I believe executive coaching isn't about becoming somebody else. It's not being inauthentic or trying to contort yourself into something that you're not. Quite the opposite. It's actually about creating the mindset combined with the habits that I'm talking about, the tactics, and these outward leadership behaviors that will allow you then to perform at the level that you are actually capable of, and you were capable of all along. That's the cool part about it. So if you're listening to this today and you're thinking to yourself, this is exactly where I want to be, I'd love to talk through this with you. I offer executive coaching consult calls where you can get on a call with me. We're going to discuss where you want to be, what goals you have ahead of yourself, what challenges that you're navigating, and what's stopping you from going after those goals, and whether coaching would be the right fit to help you get there with zero pressure. So you can find that link in the show notes. I'd love to connect with you. It's aliciacowancoaching.com. So you can reach out on my website and get a hold of me. Easy as that. But let's dive in. We're going to go through today's episode, and it's actually going to build on this idea of executive presence and why mindset alone is not going to get you there. And neither will the tactics. So let's dive in. So I've been coaching leaders and working with executives over 26 years. And here's something that I've noticed recently. It's two camps that people fall into when they're thinking about executive presence. As I coach on this call, I always believe, or on this podcast, I always believe that coaching truly is, or an executive presence, it's one of those things that it's hard to define. So when you're coaching around it, a lot of times people are not totally clear on like, what am I going to get? What am I going to work on? And what is the outcome of it? And so people leave and they ask for two things when they're looking for executive presence. The first camp believes that executive presence is all about tactics. So they want things that will help them in terms of communication, how to present themselves, how they look, how their body language is reading, how you're running meetings, how you speak with confidence, that public speaking skills, right? They want everything that has to do with the outward expression and behavior of his executive presence, which is all good and well. Definitely not saying that that's not a great skill to have. However, it's not everything. And then the second camp, this other camp believes that it's all about trying to just overcome some of the mindset blocks. So they do have self-awareness, and they want the confidence, and they want that feeling of feeling certain and secure and confident. And so they want to overcome imposter syndrome. They want to find this place of destination of confidence. They want to work on their self-belief, and they want to shift some of those limiting assumptions that are holding them back. Again, powerful, very, very good place to be and a good goal to have. But here's the problem with just sitting in one of those two camps and not realizing that it's a combination. Neither one of those elements work on their own. Executive presence isn't built through those tactics that I mentioned. And it's not built through the mindset. It's built when those internal beliefs that you have and then your external behaviors become aligned. And that is what we're diving into today. So let's go through this main framework that I'm describing. I believe there's two elements that I like to talk about when I teach executive presence and coach on this skill. It's like, if you think of picturing two circles, you got mindset as one circle. Mindset is again, fancy word for simply your thoughts about yourself. It's who you believe you are. It's your identity. Right. So that's what's one component that I like to work on and coach on. The second, if you picture a second circle, is all the tactics. And again, quite simply, this is just how you show up, the behaviors that you exhibit. So it could be your visibility in person, online. It could be how you exhibit your authority and your leadership. Could be the decisions you make. Could be the delegation that you have with your team or others. It could be about your public speaking skills that we mentioned. And those two circles, the overlap, executive presence lives in the overlap of these two circles, mindset and tactics. So let's break both of them down. Why one won't work without the other. So part one, let's talk about tactical skills without mindset. So this is surprisingly common out there. This is what this can sound like. It sounds like leaders coming and again wanting tactical skills. So they'll ask for things like, I want to know the communication tips and tricks and best practices. I want all those like tactical skills. They'll want, the books, the TED Talks about body language. They'll want additional trainings. They'll want to practice executive public speaking. And again, all good things. Not saying that that's the wrong way. However, they still don't look comfortable when they go out and they try to practice these skills without working on the mindset. It shows up in the way that they present. And the why is because they don't necessarily yet always believe what they're saying. Meaning that if you haven't done the work on the thoughts about yourself, the mindset portion, your identity, it doesn't match the actions when you go out and you just try to practice the behavior. So how this could show up is the behavior shows in ways like hedging. I've talked about hedging, and hedging is basically where you underplay through your language. Things like, well, this might sound like a dumb idea, or it might show up like by apologizing before speaking. I'm so sorry. Can I add something to the conversation? And they may over-explain things in order to prove themselves worthy because of the underlying thought. Or they may seek permission. They maybe wait to be told what to do rather than taking the authority, and they don't believe in their own authority. Or they might look for approval from somebody else because they don't feel confident in making their own decisions or taking their own action without getting that seal of confidence from somebody else. And the tactics are correct. So let me be clear. I want to state very clearly that the tactics that I'm saying about learning these skills outwardly are correct. But the problem is if the belief underneath those tactics is not aligned with that, people will outwardly feel that incongruence. And so this executive presence that I'm talking about, it's not about trying to achieve perfection through your tactics. It's not about having the perfect script, the perfect ability to present. It's about congruence with your beliefs. Because if you have zero belief in yourself, it will equate to zero outward results. People buy into your conviction that you have. Again, whether you are outwardly stating it or just they're believing it, it's going to show up. So if you don't believe that you are ready for the next level of leadership or the next level of executive presence that you need to attain, your audience isn't going to believe it either. Okay, so that is the first component. Let's dive into the second element, the mindset work without taking action. So this is the opposite extreme. This is when we want to over-prepare. We want to overthink and we want to overlearn something. We want to consume something, but we remain in fear and don't take action. So it could look like this. Leaders that are really self-aware, they might like journal and do some self-reflection. They might want to consume all the leadership books that talk about theory, about leading people and delegating and making decisions and all of that, right? They want to read and consume, to include listening to podcasts. And also maybe they want to stay in this world of like positive affirmations. And here's the thing. They know they're capable. They've gotten to that point because they've learned that piece of it. They understand what imposter syndrome means and looks like. But here's the deal. Nothing changes. So they learn and consume and think through all of this. But the deal is you have to build confidence, not by thinking about it or learning on its own. This confidence is built by creating the evidence. And creating the evidence comes from taking action. You got to go out there, use the courage in order to build confidence. And one of my favorite coaching truths is this: confidence follows courage, not the other way around. So you don't become confident and then start speaking up. You speak up and then your confidence grows. So it's like behavior exposure therapy, executive exposure therapy. So if you think about examples of this, it could look like going out and leading the meeting, even though you're a little nervous or a little hesitant, and potentially giving feedback, having a tough conversation, even though it feels uncomfortable. Could be presenting to the board and delivering a message that's tough to deliver, and challenging an executive, managing up or managing peers, or maybe it's being visible. Somebody's just mentioned this in a consult call recently, the nervousness about posting content online. I mentioned in an earlier podcast about the nerves around changing your title online and that feeling, but this person talked about relating to that and feeling nervous about creating content and writing and then posting that content online because they felt so nervous about it. So that's it. That's the exposure therapy. And the first time that you go out and do some of these activities while scared, using the courage, the first time feels awkward, for sure. Maybe highly uncomfortable. Maybe you feel really anxious about it. It could be really extreme, right? But the 10th time that you keep doing it, it starts to feel more normal. And the 100th time that you do it, it starts to like become your identity. It starts to feel like second nature. It starts to feel like a habit. And you realize you're not going to die. You're not going to crumble. People aren't going to tear you down online. And you can live through it, even if they do. So that's why you need both. So let's go into part 3 of this, why you need both of these things. I want you to think of executive presence like building a bridge. Our bridge of executive presence is built of 2 components. The foundation underneath is our mindset. We have to have this foundation of mindset built first. Tactics then are the roadway on top of this foundation that people actually drive on. So if you think about the bridge, without this foundation, the bridge is going to collapse. But without the roadway on top of the foundation, nobody's going to get anywhere, rendering this bridge pointless. That's executive presence, my friends. And so I'll often say to clients that call in and they want a consult call with me, they usually are 2 camps. They want one of these things. They'll say things like, I know I need to speak up more or to be more visible online or to like level up my leadership skills. All of those things. Fantastic. It's the first step of awareness. But then they'll say things like, I just need more confidence, as if it's a destination to arrive to. And maybe they do. Maybe confidence is helpful, but confidence isn't out there like sitting somewhere just waiting for you to unlock it. It actually is built. It's built every single time that you use courage and raise your hand in the meeting. So that's courage is the mindset portion to do the thing scared. And the raising your hand in the meeting and speaking up, leading the meeting, that's the tactics. So this happens every time you disagree with someone respectfully, professionally, but use the courage to do so. Every single time you have to present, every single time you lead, you volunteer to go first. You're the one stepping out. Every single time that you do and take these actions and then you survive these actions, you're telling your sweet brain, we did this, we survived. And this, my friends, this builds confidence. So this is a big portion of this. And I talk about this a lot in terms of the model that Brooke Hicks, my master coach and mentor, has taught me. This is part of the frameworks that we teach around executive presence. So if you think about this in a simple model, our beliefs and thoughts about ourselves drive feelings. Our behaviors are a result of those feelings. Whatever actions, whatever practice we're working on, those actions that we exhibit is a result of our thoughts and feelings. Then that produces results. So if we have thoughts, I can do this, right? And then we go out, even we do it maybe a little bit scared, but we have this feeling of courage. And then we take some of these actions and practice the tactics. Then when we get the results, we start to build a new identity by reinforcing, I can do this. And then the cycle starts again. The identity keeps rising. This is why coaching works. So people always ask me, what do I get? How does this work? Why does executive coaching help with executive presence? Well, that's the thing. Executive coaching addresses both sides simultaneously. We work on challenging the limiting beliefs. We ask why. We work through the causes. We work through what's called causal coaching and try to figure out what is going on and why we're at the state that we're currently at. Then we work on practicing some of the tangible executive presence behaviors. It's not either or, it's both. And so I'll give you this analogy. One more good analogy. Let's talk about swimming right now. It's summer where a lot of us are out in the water. My son is a swimmer. And so you think about swimming and you can't just read a book about swimming and expect to go out and to float and swim seamlessly across the pool. That's one portion of it, right? Trying to learn, trying to consume, just having the mindset and learning. The flip part of that, the tactics, you also can't just be like, take action. You can't just like not know how to swim, jump into the deep end, convinced that you are Michael Phelps and just take action and figure it out, right? Neither of these two will work. This is a very simple example, but this is the point that I'm trying to make of that you need knowledge and practice. And I'm going to layer in a piece about this. This is why coaching can help. Because sometimes if you're learning, in this example, to swim, like my son being coached, it also helps to have somebody objectively who has done it, who can tell you what you're doing right, who can tell you what you're not doing right, and to help coach you along just to move things on a little bit faster. You could absolutely do this on your own, but sometimes we want to accelerate that learning and we want to know exactly what we're doing in order to help things along. So, as we always like to do, I want to give you some takeaways that you can work on your own. So what can we do about this? You can ask yourself a couple of coaching questions that could help think through this. So you could ask yourself from the tactical portion, you can ask and reflect on where might I only be relying on tactics? Where might I be telling myself I need to read or consume more information or learn more about something? Maybe it's buying another course, watching another webinar, going out and trying to seek more information to feel ready. That might be the tactical portion, learning and over consuming. Or maybe it is relying only on trying to wait until you have the mindset in order to be ready. Maybe where am I over relying on mindset and waiting? Where may I be waiting on confidence? Maybe I'm waiting until this imposter syndrome disappears. Some people have told me that they think when they achieve a certain level of either title or compensation, that's when the magic is going to happen. And then all of a sudden they'll feel ready. I can tell you, I talk to people that achieve that level all the time. It doesn't always happen. And so where are you relying overly on the mindset portion to be ready? And the answer for both of these is almost always that you need both. You need both. So reflect on those things for yourself to try to see where you're at. And it'll help you give you a gauge of maybe where your growth needs to happen. So that's it, my friends. That's what I have for you this week. I want to leave you with this message about executive presence. Executive presence isn't something you just like put on, that you can go out achieve, have, and then just it's a solve for everything. It's something that you have to become by evolving into the leader that you set out to be. This is why this work is so magical. You have to set these goals, and the tactics that you're going to practice, they help people hear you and experience you as a leader outwardly in the world. But the mindset portion is what helps people believe you when you are in alignment, when you're congruent. So we talked about that's that magical combination that help people buy in to what you are speaking to them about. And eventually, these two, the tactics and the mindset, they become inseparable by the practice that you've put forth. So that's it, my friends. Executive presence is not about going out and being a performance. It's not about performing like this leader or executive that you dream to be. It's about actually becoming the type of leader whose beliefs and behaviors will consistently reinforce one another. All right, friends, that's what I have for you today. If you want to talk about any of this, of course, do not hesitate. Reach out, book a call with me. And as always, I appreciate you listening. If you want to go to my website, it's always in the show notes, or you can come to my website at Alicia Cowan Coaching. It's ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. And I appreciate you, friends. I will see you next time. Bye now.
All right, my executive friends, that is a wrap on today's episode. But before you go, I want to come back to something I mentioned at the top of the episode because it genuinely matters to me. Episode 100 is coming, and I'm so excited about it. I want to build this episode around you, your stories, your wins, the moments where something from this podcast actually showed up in your workplace, in a meeting, in a hard conversation, a decision, a result, you leading with more executive presence. If that is you, if there is a single moment in an episode, maybe a tool, a framework, or even just the small single idea that stuck with you and changed something, I want to hear about it. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be some big dramatic transformation. I just want it to be real. And so the link to share your story is always in the show notes. You can just go to my website, Alicia Cowan Coaching, and I'll take it from there. Should be quick, take you less than 5 minutes. And I would love if you would let me share it on the podcast, and it might help somebody else out there that needs to hear it right now. So thanks for being here, episode after episode. And 100 of these episodes don't happen without you actually showing up and listening. And I do not take that lightly. I'll see you on the next one, friends. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.